I transmigrated into the child of the tragic heroine. At just 3 years old, little me became a sacrificial pawn in my parents' love story. When mom went on a hunger strike, I starved alongside her. When she ran away, I was punished by kneeling until my knees bled. After mom ran away from home yet again, I knocked on the door of dad's sworn rival. Does your border collie adopt humans? I'm very easy to raise. Half a piece of bread is enough to keep me alive. His family has 5 cats and 3 dogs, all picked up by the border collie. I thought, since he's already picked up so many little ones, he should be able to squeeze in one more of me. When I was 3.5 years old, my mom found a lipstick mark on dad's suit collar and left home heartbroken. Dad was furious, grabbing me by the neck and threatening mom, if I don't see you by tonight, I'll drag Sherry to the riverbank and chop off her fingers one by one to feed the fish. You're really my biological father. I flailed my short arms and legs on the ground as Dad kicked me away with his rock-hard shoe, his gaze colder and more heartless than a fish frozen for 10 years. I can't stay in this house any longer. My parents fight every few days, and when they do, I always get caught in the crossfire. Earlier, my dad's archenemy George gave me a card with his home address on it. His large lawn has 5 cats and 3 dogs, all rescued by Border Collie Coffee. It loves picking up little ones so much. Maybe it'll share a metal bowl with me. Having made up my mind, I secretly followed the nanny Lucy and dashed out through the iron fence of the villa. Goodbye, iron cage. Sherry is free now. Clutching the card, I showed it to adults along the way, and with their help, I smoothly entered the villa area and arrived at George's gate. There's a photo of Coffee by the door. I couldn't reach the bell, so I hopped up and down, calling out, "Coffee, I'm here to play." As soon as I spoke, Coffee's head appeared at the window. It barked once, then quickly came to open the door, wagging its tail like a propeller. "Coffee, don't open the door randomly. Be careful or Cream might run off again." Chasing right after the Coffee was George, dressed in a Cinnamoroll sleep robe and wearing mismatched slippers. His hair was a mess, a stark contrast to his previous well-groomed, suit-clad appearance, and I almost didn't recognize him, through the fence. I unfolded the business card I had been clutching tightly all the way. "Great brother, does your coffee shop hire people? Who taught you to call me that?" George pressed Coffee's head with one hand and pinched my cheek with the other. "The little chick has gotten skinnier. Uncle's house doesn't take picky eaters." "I'm not a little chick," I puffed up in protest, but George paid me no mind at all, his knuckled fingers kneading my face like dough. "I'm Sherry. You saw me on the big, beautiful ship. Daddy gave Mommy grapes, but Mommy didn't eat them, so Daddy gave them to me." Such a big grape got stuck in Sherry's throat, and Sherry saw stars. I pinched my neck, vividly recreating the scene from that time. "Brother mentioned Sherry. Pat the grapes out. That was so long ago. You actually remember it. A fresh brain really comes in handy." George's gaze fell on my neck, and he frowned, saying, "Why is your neck red?" Daddy choked me. I wrapped my arms around his thigh, imitating Dad's gruff tone. "If I don't see Mommy tonight, I'll chop off Sherry's fingers and feed them to the fish." That's what he said. "Your dad is really something else." George bent down to pick me up, and I took the opportunity to wrap my arms around his neck. "Brother saved Sherry. Saving a life means pledging oneself in return. Great brother. Sherry is yours now. Go on, get out of here. Stop learning all this nonsense. I'm 20 years older than you. By seniority, you should be calling me uncle." George flicked my forehead, and I pouted pitifully. "The pretty one is the brother, and the one who's as grumpy as Dad is the uncle. Brother is pretty. He's the pretty great brother." Afraid he might reject me, I quickly hugged him tighter. "Brother, I'm very easy to take care of. Just half a piece of bread is enough to fill me up. I can finish every last bite in my bowl, comb my own hair, play with toys, and sleep alone. I'll be very good. Brother, please don't send Sherry away." I blurted out every advantage I could think of, clinging to George like a teary-eyed accessory. "I won't drive you away. Your brother Coffee has already taken in so many younger siblings. What's one more mouth to feed?" George sighed, running his hand over my thin arm before shaking his head. "You're lighter than my cat. Your parents really didn't take good care of you. Your hair's all tangled. And you're so thin I can feel your bones." He kept complaining, but his movements were unusually gentle. Before lifting me onto the sofa, he even laid down a soft cushion, treating me with more care than fragile porcelain. Coffee jumped onto the sofa and kept nuzzling into my arms. I reached out to pet him when George spoke up. "Pet him gently, Coffee. I'm talking to you, don't pretend you didn't hear. I immediately softened my touch, only to see George shoot a glare. So coffee withdrew its paw from me. Usually the housekeeper cooks at home. I can only make some instant food. You'll have to make do. George changed into an apron. All his clothes were in soft pink hues, clashing starkly with his cold expression. He placed a bowl of cream of mushroom soup on the table. By the time I sat down and he turned to fetch a bib, I had already abandoned the spoon, buried my face in the bowl, and began shoving mushrooms and shrimp into my mouth haphazardly. Don't you? The soup was just the right temperature. By the time George lifted me out of the bowl, I had already drunk more than half of it and was still licking my lips with lingering satisfaction. Brother, I'm full, you can flip the table now. Under George's astonished gaze, I blinked my eyes and said obediently, I'll eat all the soup on the floor too. Auntie told Sherry to cherish food. After Daddy flips the table, I'll eat all the dishes on the ground and not waste anything. Does your father flip the table every time you eat? George's smile faded, his eyes turning colder. Yes, whenever Mommy doesn't eat, Daddy says, then no one eats, and flips the table over. I'm used to it. Every time I grab food with my hands, I try to eat as much as I can before Dad flips the table. After all, Mom doesn't eat. Dad will feed her himself later. If I don't eat, I'll go hungry. Did the nanny make you eat food that fell on the floor, even though it should be a good thing? George's expression was grim, looking at my dirty hands. I thought maybe George found me too filthy. I'll wash my hands properly from now on and won't touch the cats and dogs with dirty hands. I watched him cautiously as George let out a long sigh and sat back down beside me, patiently wiping my hands with a towel. Sherry, do you know how to use a spoon? Seeing me nod, he gently wiped the oil stains from the corner of my mouth, his tone soft. From now on at home, no one will flip the table, and no one will snatch your food. You can eat slowly, no need to pick up food from the ground. In our home, we just live comfortably, and you don't have to worry about anyone's mood, understand? He filled another bowl of soup and handed the spoon to me. I sipped the soup slowly, half understanding, then George patted my head. Good girl, turns out drinking soup slowly can earn praise too. My eyes stung as tears fell into the soup, adding a salty taste to it. In the middle of the night, heavy rain began to fall, and the swaying tree shadows looked like child-eating monsters. Before the next thunderclap arrived, I tightly covered my ears, clutching my little blanket as I hid in the cat sister's nest. The black cat yawned, generously sharing half of its bed with me. I buried myself in its fluffy belly, listening to the soothing purrs it emitted. My cold body gradually warmed up, and in a daze, I caught a faint whiff of grass and wood. Someone lifted me onto the bed, afraid of thunder. Why didn't you come to me? It was only when Coffee knocked on the door that I found out you were fighting the cat for territory. George hooked my nose, and I nestled into his warm embrace, nodding to his tone gentler than a lullaby. Daddy won't let me into the room, and he's in a bad mood. He even punished Sherry by making her sleep with the broom. Then when there's thunder, aren't you usually scared? George patted my back as my eyelids grew heavy, and I pointed at the bottle on the nightstand. The bottle holds magical little round pills. If you take them and sleep, you won't feel hungry or afraid anymore. It's amazing. Auntie gave them to me as a treasure. The moment I gripped the bottle, my head tilted to the side. The last thing I heard was George's sigh, so faint, yet it felt unbearably heavy to me. Silly, this isn't treasure, it's sleeping pills. If you take too many, you might never wake up again. I had a very sweet dream, so sweet that when I opened my eyes, I could still smell the fragrant aroma of milk. I wanted to get up, but my chest felt heavy, making it impossible for me to move. Could it be a ghost? I frantically waved my hands, and then George's scolding echoed from afar. Bread? Get off your sister, a semi-trailer that heavy still loves lying on people's stomachs. Don't you have any sense of how much you weigh? Coffee quickly jumped onto the bed, chasing away the round orange cat, who let out a dissatisfied meow before clattering around its food bowl. Everything felt like a dream. I walked somewhat dazedly to the mirror and pinched my face. It hurt. This wasn't a dream. I had truly left my parents and the home I once knew. Feeding sleeping pills to a child. What a despicable thing for their nanny to do. It must have been Simon's tacit approval. He's sharper than a ghost in business. If someone dared to slip sleeping pills under his nose, how could he not know? Is this child really Simon's biological daughter? They don't look alike, and he was so ruthless. Could it be? The new sister at home kept glancing at me, so I smiled and said, Hello, beautiful sister. I'm Sherry. Oh my, this is incredible. It's melting my heart. My sister covered her chest, shaking her head with absolute certainty. Impossible, absolutely impossible. I refuse to believe Simon could have such an adorable child. It's definitely his biological child. I checked earlier. George rolled his eyes and said sarcastically, a scumbag who would let a child choke to the point of suffocation, nearly losing their life on the spot, is actually Sherry's father. The world must have gone mad. Have you contacted the project team at their company responsible for the Northern District business? Yes, I have. The boss is inhuman, and the project team is now filled with resentment. All right, tell the lead supervisor we'll double their wages. We must poach the North City project team at all costs. George fiddled with the beads around his wrist, grinding his teeth in anger. While Simon's away, I'll go to their office tomorrow and uproot their money tree. That damn thing still brings them fortune. He doesn't deserve it. Calm down, that's too blatant. My sister shook her head disapprovingly. Let me handle it. I'll have mom work as a cleaner at their company and unplug their internet cables every day. What a ruthless business tactic. I was utterly confused, realizing how complex the adult world truly is. Coffee, come closer. I'll share some of my milk with you to taste. Sherry, that's your milk. Don't share it with coffee. Oops. I got caught. After finishing my meal, I changed into the new dress my sister bought and sat in front of the mirror for her to braid my hair. Sherry is so beautiful, so adorable. Be a good girl when you get in the car with your sister later, okay? I nodded and asked my sister, am I leaving now? Last time, mommy also dressed me up beautifully, fed me a small milk-flavored cookie, and then she disappeared. I guess maybe brother George is too busy, so sister wanted to send me away. It's okay. Sherry has sweet milk to drink, cats and dogs to play with, and brother Grape to coax her to sleep. I'm already perfectly content. Even if I have to go home now, I won't be sad. That's right, brother George has to work, and he's worried about leaving Sherry alone at home. The braids my sister did were especially pretty. Sniffling, I smiled brightly and said, thank you, pretty sister, you're just too adorable, sweetheart. My sister hugged and kissed me repeatedly before lifting me into the black car. As the door was about to close, I pulled out a milk candy from my pocket and handed it to her, saying earnestly, sister, can you give this candy to Big Brother for me? The candy is delicious. It's from mommy. Sherry wants to stay and eat it with mommy. Now Big Brother is the nicest to Sherry. Sherry likes Big Brother. So Sherry wants to give the candy to Big Brother. I placed the milk candy in my palm. And thinking that I wouldn't get to see Big Brother one last time, tears uncontrollably welled up in my eyes. I'm sorry, sister, I only have one piece of candy. I like you too, but I don't have a second piece to give. My sister panicked instantly, flustered as she hugged and comforted me. Don't be scared, don't be scared. I hate eating candy the most. Brother Candy can have all the milk candies to himself. I know Sherry likes me, and I like Sherry the most too. Sherry, don't be sad. But Sherry is about to leave, and I still can't even offer 2 pieces of candy. I had been holding back. But the moment my sister comforted me, the floodgates opened, choking back sobs. I said, sister braids my hair beautifully and gives me new clothes. I can't repay her enough. I won't go. I'll call George right now. You're not going to kindergarten. Sister quickly took out her phone and played my voice on speaker. Let Sherry stay home and play for a couple days first. With 8 nannies taking turns to care for her, we can definitely manage. You're going home so soon. All right. Sherry happens to want to see you too. She said she has candy for you. In the end, I personally gave the milk candy to George. He looked at my tear-streaked face and helplessly hooked his pinky with mine. Little one. I'm not sending you away, okay? Don't scare yourself like this. Pinky promise. 100 years no changing. After pressing his thumbprint with me, he didn't forget to show off the milk candy I gave him to his sister. Sherry specially gave me this milk candy. You don't get any. Stop it. Sherry promised to give me some later too, right? Sherry, the 2 adults fought to hold me, and I stopped crying to smile, planting a kiss on each of their cheeks. Yes. I'll give sister candy to eat in the future too. Sherry, remember, mommy and daddy don't love you because they're very, very bad people, not because you're not a good child. George wiped away my tears and said earnestly, our Sherry is the most unique and wonderful child in the whole world, the best bargain your brother ever found. Since we're already on leave, how about I take Sherry to the amusement park? Great. Great brother is the best brother in the whole world. And the most handsome brother too, George emphasized, while his sister elbowed him. Look how happy you are. Throughout the day, I rode the carousel with my brother and sister, took the Ferris wheel that went up really high, and even fed the little goldfish. When the sun went down, we all went out to walk the dog together. My brother had me sit in a little cart pulled by the dogs, letting them drag me around until my hair was all messed up. When my sister came back with ice cream and saw this, she gave him a hard slap on the back and scolded him the whole way home, putting a 3-year-old in a dog-drawn cart. What were you thinking? What if it tipped over? Don't worry, Coffee is smarter than you, definitely won't flip the car. So the brother got slapped by the sister again. Kids can't eat things that are too cold, so Sherry can only have a tiny taste. The sister bought 5 ice creams, 3 for the dog and 1 for George. She let me take a bite of the remaining ice cream, icy cold and incredibly sweet. The ice cream tasted like the flavor of my older siblings, cold on the surface, but sweet at heart. When I told my sister about it, she laughed for a long time, saying I was probably the only person in the world who would describe George as sweet. But I think Sherry is right. My sister smiled as she watched George come out of the store, carrying a large bag of items. He proudly showed me the newly bought sketchbook and crayons. These are gifts for you, so you won't be bored when you're home alone. I happily hugged the sketchbook, secretly thinking how sweet my brother is. That's the scent of my brother's essence. After staying at home playing with cats and dogs for a week, the nanny usually turns on the TV for me during dog walks. I sat on the sofa, with the small table covered in coloring books and crayons, excitedly wanting to draw a family portrait. There should be Big Brother, Big Sister, Coffee Brother, Cream Brother, and Black Forest Sister. I was drawing circles one after another, about to add 2 dots for eyes, when a familiar face appeared on the TV screen. My hand holding the pen suddenly froze as I stared blankly at the images of Mom and Dad on screen. They stood amidst a sea of purple flowers, with a 4-leaf windmill spinning behind them. Mr. Simon, on your 2nd wedding anniversary, what inspired you to purchase this flower field and recreate your honeymoon journey with your wife? Someone fabricated photos of my infidelity, which deeply devastated my beloved, even driving her to the brink of suicide. I realized that all these years, I had only focused on providing her with material comforts but failed to fill the void in her heart. Dad intertwined his fingers with Mom's and tenderly kissed the corner of her lips. After realizing this, I decided to spend a year accompanying my beloved to see the sights she's always wanted to visit. Our journey will span the globe, culminating in witnessing a once-in-a-century meteor shower. Dad spoke eloquently, his words as profound as ever. I watched Mom leaning against Dad's shoulder, her face flushed with shyness, her gaze intertwined with his, radiating sweetness. They made up again. I wasn't surprised. After all, Dad knows best how to please Mom, no matter how cruelly Dad abused me. No matter how many tears Mom shed, as long as Dad was willing to back down and stand up for Mom just once, Mom would always forgive him, and she'd even take my hand and say, "Sherry, your father loves you. He's just a bit strict, don't hold it against him." The red handprints on my neck are still visible. Is pressing my neck down love? If it's love, why does my kind brother get angry when he sees it? I told Dad that the nanny made me eat round pills and pick up food from the floor to eat. My stomach hurts so much, and I want to see Mom. You're a big 3-year-old now. Solve your own problems. Stop whining, Mommy, Mommy, all day long. Dad shoved me hard, letting me fall to the ground as he looked down at me from above. If you can't get food, go take it. If your stomach hurts, go find a doctor. Sherry, your only value is keeping your mother by my side. I don't care if you live or die. But if you dare convince your mom to leave me, to leave this house again. He pinched my chin, his cruel tone sending chills down my spine. I'll cut out your tongue. I snapped the red crayon in half. The TV was still on, the reporter asking my father about their child. "Mr. Simon, your child is just over 3 years old, right? Are you planning to take your child along with you and Ms. Kathy on this honeymoon trip?" A honeymoon is naturally a time for Kathy and me to enjoy each other's company. If Kathy had to take care of the child during the trip, she wouldn't be able to appreciate the beauty of the journey at all. Her focus would entirely be on the child. Dad said solemnly, "Kathy is my beloved. In my eyes, she should first and foremost be herself, and only then a mother. The child has a team of nannies to take care of them, but Kathy only has me. I don't want her to spend the rest of her life tied to the child, nor do I want the child to become chains that bind Kathy." On screen. The father's heartfelt words brought tears to the mother's eyes. Even forgetting the cameras, she threw herself into his arms, their faces pressed together. The camera shifted to the reporter, who watched the couple's tight embrace, moved to the point of incoherence. Mr. Simon truly loves his wife deeply. For an arranged marriage to blossom into such passionate love, just hearing about it is enough to move anyone to tears. I hope friends in front of the TV can join me in wishing them well, hoping they can make up for past regrets and complete this honeymoon journey that was delayed for 2 years. The handprint on my neck suddenly burned with a sharp pain, making it hard for me to breathe for a moment. The sketchbook was covered in lines, black and red, crisscrossing chaotically. Staring at the distorted images, tears fell uncontrollably, and the unbearable agony made me tear the sketchbook violently in half. By the time I came to my senses, the sketchbook was completely torn apart, with large pieces of shredded paper scattered everywhere. Coffee, my dog, anxiously circled at my feet, desperately trying to climb onto me, licking my face with its wet tongue. We're doomed. I hugged Coffee and helped it clean up the scattered pieces of paper on the floor, hiding them at the bottom of the trash bin with a sliver of hope. Yet, George noticed something was off at a glance. Where's your sketchbook? He asked sternly, his face stiff. I remained silent, too afraid to meet his eyes. Who tore up the papers in the trash bin? George threw the torn notebook onto the table, staring straight at me. Coffee stepped in front of me and, right in George's face, tore out a page. Its almost provocative behavior angered George, who pushed it aside and pointed at its nose, saying, "Don't cover for your sister. There's no way you tore the notebook. Her fingers still have crayon marks on them." This was practically an ultimatum, so I obediently admitted my mistake. It was me who tore the notebook. After admitting his mistake, George's attitude visibly softened. He spread out the torn pages and pointed at a small figure with black wings, sharp fangs, and claws. "Is this a monster?" "It's a dragon," I whispered a correction. "He's also daddy." George froze for a moment, his gaze at me gradually growing more complicated. His finger moved from the evil dragon daddy to the long-haired little figure locked behind, his tone unconsciously softening considerably. "Is the person locked up?" "Sherry." "No," I said very softly, "that's Princess Mommy. Sherry is the hero. Sherry will wield her sword to defeat the evil dragon and rescue the princess from the tower. That's how the picture books show it. Defeat the dragon, and then the hero and the princess live happily ever after." The desk is scattered with broken red crayons, the dragon covered in bright red crosses, and fallen tears smudged the paper, distorting both the dragon and the princess in the tower. "George, why doesn't my princess love the hero but instead loves the evil dragon who imprisoned her?" I rolled up my pant legs, revealing the bruises on my knees. "This is the punishment for Sherry trying to help Mom escape." That day, the roses in the yard bloomed. Mom couldn't see the flowers in the backyard from her room, so Sherry secretly took Dad's key and held Mom's hand to go see them. The roses were beautiful. Mom carefully trimmed the thorns from the stems and tucked a flower into Sherry's hair. "My Sherry is more beautiful than a rose. Mom's smile is so warm. I love Mom. I love her smile. I love when she pats my head. I don't regret it one bit. Even if Dad spanks my palm and forces me to kneel on the ground, I still stiffen my neck." Glaring at him with teary eyes, Dad locked Mom up and wouldn't let her see the flowers. "Dad is a super big bad guy. Sherry will never apologize to a big bad guy." That day, I knelt until I could barely stand, but Mom's hatred for Dad lasted only one night. The next day, Dad gave Mom so many roses that she was buried in a sea of flowers. Holding me gently, she applied medicine to my knees. She said, "Father and daughter should never hold grudges overnight. Sherry, go apologize to your dad. He's the one who lets you live in a big house, wear the prettiest dresses, and eat desserts other kids could only dream of. He's already given you the best life. A good child should be grateful and repay kindness." At that moment, the gentle mother suddenly became so unfamiliar. I stared at her blankly, my chest tight, a sour ache veiling my eyes with mist. "Mom, I stood up to Dad because I wanted to protect you. Why does the princess shield the dragon when the hero raises his sword against it?" I searched through the picture books, but found no answers within them. "Sherry, you are already a remarkable warrior." George pieced together the torn drawing, pointing at the warrior with a fluttering cape and a raised sword. "You defeated the dragon and escaped the tower that imprisoned your mother for a lifetime. That's already quite remarkable." The light illuminated George's amber eyes. And also the me who was bathed in the tenderness within his gaze. The brave one will have a new family, will meet many, many people who love her, and countless glittering treasures await her, just like her radiant future. Don't cry for the past, okay, my little brave one. He draped his coat over my shoulders like a cape, then folded the paper into a sword and solemnly handed it to me. May you have the courage to slay the dragon. I will, Brother Grape. I took the sword from George with both hands. It felt heavy, carrying the courage my brother had given me. That night, I pretended to be asleep while secretly listening to my sister's conversation with George. The project team in the northern part of the city has secured the deal. Simon embezzled funds to purchase a large lavender estate, and coupled with his prolonged absence from company affairs, the shareholders who supported him are clearly wavering. Seize this opportunity to release the product scandals we've gathered before, by a couple more trending topics, and aim to completely ruin their reputation. The celebrity endorsed by group has also recently been involved in a scandal. We should take advantage of this. Listening on, my eyelids began to droop uncontrollably. My sister shushed me and pulled the blanket over me. Let's talk outside. Sherry's sleepy. The room fell silent again. Someone gently touched my face and whispered, "Good night." On the 6th month of staying at George's house, I celebrated my 4th birthday. The braids I did for the girl sitting next to me were especially pretty. The teacher praised me for a long time and even rewarded me with a cheese stick. The toys my brother gave me were really popular. So many kids wanted to play with me, and I was so happy every day because I have the best brother and sister in the world. Holding my sister's hand, I chatted with her about kindergarten. She listened very attentively, occasionally complimenting me. George was at the stall shooting balloons, raising the gun with a serious expression and swiftly clearing the entire wall of balloons. Big brother is amazing. I clapped in admiration as George brushed his bangs aside and said nonchalantly, "Piece of cake." Yet, amidst the envious gazes of countless children, when he picked up the teddy bear that was even taller than me, the pride on his face couldn't be hidden at all. While browsing the souvenir shop, I was picking out hats, intending to buy one for the whole family, but accidentally bumped into a lady in front of the shelf. "Sorry, Auntie, I wasn't paying attention to where I was going." I looked up and froze slightly upon seeing the lady's face. The lady before me was adorned with gemstone pendants from head to toe, as flamboyant as a peacock. She was my mother. "Sherry, why are you at an overseas amusement park? Didn't Daddy send you to a private kindergarten?" Mom took off her sunglasses in shock. Her face looked even more refined now, but the thick makeup resembled a pale mask, suddenly stirring a sense of unfamiliarity in me. Instinctively taking 2 steps back, I didn't answer her question, turning instead to look for my brother and sister. After confirming George and my sister weren't far from me, I let out a long sigh of relief. I ran away from home 6 months ago, ran away from home. Mom's eyes widened in disbelief as I puffed out my chest and spoke earnestly. Daddy said Mom should be herself first, and only then a mother. Sherry also wants to be herself first, and only then Mom and Dad's child. I tightly gripped the glowing sword George had bought me, channeling all the love and courage he'd given me into the words that spilled from my lips. Sherry has a new home now, with brothers and sisters who love her very, very much, with cats and dogs to keep her company. And everyone at kindergarten. Mommy, I don't want to go back to Daddy's cage anymore, and I don't want to be the lock on Mommy's cage anymore. As long as I exist, I will always be Mommy's excuse to forgive Daddy, and Daddy's whip to punish Mommy. Have you picked out a gift yet, Kathy? A child can be easily satisfied with just a couple of pretty candies. Is it really worth wasting time on her? With the sound of leather shoes clicking, my heart gradually tightened. Instinctively filled with fear, I thought about running to my brother and sister, but unexpectedly, Mom abruptly grabbed my wrist. Large tears rolled down her face, smudging her makeup. "Don't go, Sherry. Mommy bought you a birthday present. Today is Sherry's birthday, right?" Mommy didn't know Sherry ran away from home. Mommy thought you were happy every day at kindergarten. Mommy watched your smile on the monitor every day. Mommy really thought you were growing up happily. Mom kept babbling incoherently, gripping my wrist so tightly it felt like she believed I would turn into a bird and fly far away from her the moment she let go. It hurt, it really hurt. Mom's sharp nails dug into my wrist painfully, and Dad was also approaching step by step, looking down at me with unmistakable disgust in his eyes. "Why are you here?" I thrust the sword hard into his buttocks, and Dad's frown deepened. Before his sharp lips could utter even harsher words, I shouted loudly, "Brother George, I knew that just by calling out my brother's name, he would appear by my side in an instant. Let go, she's my sister. George rushed over in a flash, inserting himself between me and Mom, his tall figure firmly shielding me behind him. George, I'd advise you not to meddle in other people's business, Dad sneered, but George blocked him, refusing to yield an inch. Sherry came to my house of her own accord. She's my sister now. If you dare lay a finger on Sherry. George cracked his knuckles. I'll break the hand you used to touch her. The tension was palpable, yet Mom remained oblivious as she carefully handed me the crystal ball. Sherry, today is your birthday, right? I bought you a gift, the crystal ball you loved as a child. It has a little snowman, a beautiful Christmas tree, and plays your favorite song. Mom played the music from the crystal ball, and when the sweet song started, I suddenly hid in my brother's arms. Great brother. I don't like this song. I feel a little unwell. George frowned and quickly covered my ears, while Dad still wore an impatient expression, dismissing George's overreaction with disdain. You actually believe her? Sherry has always been dramatic since she was little, crying over the slightest scratch. It's just because you haven't spent much time with her that you're making a fuss over something so trivial. She's making a fuss. Shouldn't you know best what she's been through? George's neck veins bulged, nearly grinding his teeth as he said, "Turn off the music." That time Sherry was locked in the car and almost suffocated to death. This exact song was playing. You two stopped for a hotel room and locked her alone in a car with the heater on. Didn't you consider that with such heavy snow, a sealed car could literally suffocate someone to death? I clutched the hem of George's shirt, and the memories of that day gradually became clearer. As I was on the verge of losing consciousness, someone shattered the car window and pulled me out of the vehicle. Again, you. At that moment, George frowned slightly and tugged on Coffee's leash. Your parents are truly careless. First they nearly choked you to death with grapes, and now they just leave you alone in the car. He patted my back, carried me back to the villa, and after the private doctor confirmed I was fine, he slipped a business card into my hat. If anything happens, come find me. Given your parents' behavior, I'm afraid you might not make it to adulthood. So, I followed the card to George and embraced a new life. Sherry, you like snow globes, don't you? Mom remembers how much you love snow globes. Mom kept insisting on pushing the gift into my arms, but I pushed her away, along with her belated present. The snow globe shattered into pieces, and I turned my head, refusing to look at Mom's disappointed face. Mom, today isn't my birthday. My birthday was yesterday, and besides, I've been away from home for half a year. Normally, if I'm just half an hour late coming home, my brother can't sit still and comes to the kindergarten to look for me, but I've been gone for half a year, and you never came to find me. I shook my head and said calmly, Big brother lets me ride on his shoulders, works hard to win balloons for me, and makes swords and crowns for me with his own hands. Love cannot be hidden. Just like how I love my brother, I want to tell him all the time, I have the best brother and sister in the world, so even without parents, I don't feel it's a pity. The love I want, I already have more than enough. When George carried me away, my mother behind me suddenly burst into loud sobs. She was frantically interrogating my father, even slapping him hard across the face. In the videos you sent, Sherry was clearly fine, clearly happy every day. Why doesn't Sherry want me now? Why doesn't she want her mommy anymore? Simon, why did you lie to me? Why did you make me believe I lost my child? Don't listen. George covered my ears. The world of adults shouldn't involve children. He unwrapped a cheese stick and secretly fed it to me behind my sister's back. It was the cheese stick I'd been craving for so long, yet it tasted bitter. George held me and smiled gently. If Sherry wants to go home, I won't stop you. My sister and I will always be your family. Sherry, you can always return to your parents' embrace whenever you wish. George is always so gentle. With a cheese stick in my mouth, I cried all the way. By the time we got off the car, I still held George's hand. Wherever my brother and sister are, that's Sherry's home. Sherry already has a home. She won't return to the cage of the past. A long time passed after that. I saw Dad at the kindergarten gate. His hair was disheveled, no longer clad in a suit, with dark circles under his eyes. Mom is dying. Sherry, could you go see her one last time? Dad is begging you. His usually straight posture slightly hunched, streaks of white appearing at his temples. I want to ask my brother. I hid behind the teacher, not giving my father a chance to forcibly take me away. It wasn't until George came to pick me up that I agreed to go with my father. I saw my mother in the hospital room. The doctor said she committed suicide. I blinked my eyes as George whispered in my ear. Suicide means mommy was in so much pain that she wanted to say goodbye to everyone early and become a star far away in the sky. So I'll never see mommy again. Seeing George nod, I looked at my mother under the transparent cover, my nose stinging with tears. Sherry, your mother kept calling your name before she passed. Dad's voice trembled as he spoke. Even though he had never cared so much about Mom's feelings while she was alive, now that Mom was about to become a star, Dad began to regret. The milk has gone bad, and only then do I regret not drinking it earlier. What's the use now? I don't really feel like talking to Dad, so I hold Mom's cold hand instead. Beep beep, the machine beside me beeped. Its red line fluctuating up and down. It's working, sweetheart, keep calling for your mom. Dad was excited, but brother George gave him a cold glance and said calmly, Sherry, say what you want to say, don't force yourself. Mom, I leaned close to Mom's ear, stroking her face just as she used to do when telling me stories. I'm doing very well. My brothers and sisters love me dearly, and I love them too. On the day Coffee won the racing championship, I made the big red flower for it. I took out the drawing from my backpack and pointed at each person, introducing them to Mom one by one. The one with the flower crown is my sister. She's very beautiful and makes especially lovely crafts every time. The one with the crown is my brother George. He's very handsome and gives Sherry the courage to overcome any difficulty. This is Coffee, Cream, Black Forest, and little sister Kitty Bun. Now I have a very happy home and a little sister to care for. I'm doing well. You don't need to worry about me. I slowly let go of Mom's hand, wiping away the tear stains at the corners of her eyes. Let me go, and let yourself go too, brother. I've said my piece. Okay. George took my hand and led me out. Dad hurriedly tried to stop us, anxiously saying, she hasn't woken up yet. Sherry, say a few more words. Try to persuade your mother. Simon, haven't you realized yet? The woman you loved most, the woman you treasured like a pearl in your palm, took her own life because of you. George's mocking words struck like a thunderbolt, leaving Simon frozen in place. George looked at his disheveled face, at the torment etched in his expression, and felt nothing but bitter irony. She died because of you, because you're a complete scumbag. You only saw Kathy as your lover and Sherry as her daughter. They were your possessions, and you never treated them as human beings. So you never cared about the harm you caused them, thinking everything in the past could be resolved with money. But hearts can feel pain, and that's why they left you. George slammed the door shut and led me out of the hospital room. The beeping sound grew louder, and finally, Mom opened her eyes. After that, a transfer would appear in my bank account every month. From time to time, a woman wearing a hat would appear outside the window. She would watch my smiling face from afar, only to leave immediately when I noticed her. The divorce between Mom and Dad caused quite a stir. Mom accused Dad of imprisonment and made his crimes public. Information about me was very well concealed. I knew it was my brother George's doing. In the year I started elementary school, Mom gave me a pot of night-blooming jasmine. The greeting card read, to my dearest daughter, wishing you all the best. The sound of knocking echoed, and I tucked the greeting card into the diary in my drawer before turning to run toward the front door. Someone far more important was waiting for me there. George's business card gave me the right to choose a home again. Thus, I met the ones I love most. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see, living a carefree life for over 20 years, only to suddenly discover I was the swapped fake heiress. The real heiress has returned, bringing along the future supervillain, her son Bruce. Everyone can see the bullet comments above the little villain's head. Bruce, at 25, he becomes a walking criminal code, absolutely terrifying. The James family is done for, actually bringing back that wolf cub. TSK TSK TSK. The fake heiress is still standing there dumbfounded. It won't be long before she's poisoned by that wolf cub. Everyone quickly kept their distance. I looked at the little boy beside her and asked in surprise, is this really your child? The true heiress replied indifferently, early parenthood, kept the child but not the father. By the way, don't go back to the countryside, stay and help me raise the child. Me, Julia, born beautiful, a wealthy heiress, the epitome of a life winner. At the birthday banquet, I made a dazzling entrance wearing a high-end necklace worth 7 figures. The lawyer from the James family hurried over and handed the DNA test report to my father. 99, 99% match. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. MS, Tina is the true daughter of the James family. The chandelier in the banquet hall suddenly became glaringly bright. I looked toward the entrance, where a young girl in a plaid shirt and jeans stood, holding the hand of a boy about 5 years old. Tina walked in, her gaze sweeping across the room full of guests before finally settling on me. Is this your younger brother? I pondered the complicated family dynamics, completely unaware that the little boy had shot me a glare upon hearing this. My adoptive parents passed away long ago. How could I have a younger brother? This is my son. Tina's voice was soft, yet it exploded like a bomb in the banquet hall. Upon hearing this, Mrs. James let out a shocked gasp and fainted on the spot. While Mr. James' cane clattered to the floor with a loud thud, all eyes shifted from Tina to the child, their expressions a mix of astonishment and disbelief. What's even more bizarre is that their gazes were slightly raised, as if looking at something above the child's head. Following their line of sight, I nearly screamed. Above the child's head floated lines of semi-transparent text, scrolling like video subtitles. Is this the future villain who will bring down the James family empire? At 15, he acquired the James family. By 20, he became a business tycoon. At 25, he turned into a walking embodiment of the criminal code. Absolutely terrifying. Oh my God, he looks so adorable now. Hard to imagine he'll become so fearsome later. The James family is doomed. They actually brought the wolf cub home. TSK TSK. I blinked, but the barrage of comments was still there. Looking at the others, their expressions were quite grim, clearly able to see these words as well. Tina seemed out of the loop, merely scanning her surroundings warily and holding the child even tighter. The child, noticing the unwelcoming atmosphere around him, pressed his lips together tightly, his entire being gradually shrouded in a dark, brooding aura. He huddled in Tina's arms, but a flash of crimson in his eyes silenced the air, sending chills down everyone's spines. I pinched myself hard. Yep, not a dream. The fake heiress is still standing there dumbfounded. Soon she'll be poisoned by the wolf cub. Spoiler, Bruce, IQ 200 plus. The ultimate villain in the original story, the first person he targets after seizing power is the fake heiress. The fake heiress will never know, even in death, that a single wrong word sealed her fate. Don't forget, villains can be super vindictive. If he's unhappy, sooner or later he'll skin the other person alive. My eyelid twitched violently, as if I could already see my own miserable fate. God, who knows how utterly devastated I am at this moment. I desperately want to run away, but there's nowhere for me to go. After all, once I leave the James family, I'll have nothing left. On the other side, Mr. and Mrs. James couldn't accept this fact and hastily flew to the Maldives to cool off, leaving me, Tina, and the villainous little one staring at each other in bewilderment. Everything was in chaos. Complete and utter chaos. 3 hours later, I was politely escorted out of the second-floor suite. After all, that was a place only fit for the true heiress. You'll stay here, Tina said, kicking open the bedroom door next to the children's room. I dragged my suitcase inside and found the room exceptionally cozy and comfortable, much better than the maid's quarters. I thought you'd kick me out or make me live in the bathroom, I said honestly. Tina raised an eyebrow. What good would kicking you out do me? Of course, I don't have a hobby of forcing people to live in bathrooms either. Besides, you have to help me take care of Bruce. I wouldn't trust anyone else. I was dumbfounded. Why do you trust me so much? Wait, is it really appropriate for me to take care of the child who will skin me alive in the future? Because there's no disgust in your eyes when you look at Bruce, she said, meeting my gaze directly. Everyone avoids him, including my own parents, but you don't. Only then did I realize she couldn't see those bullet comments in her eyes. Others just inexplicably fear and dislike her child. How I wish I could tell her that I'm also afraid of her son. I'm just a bit slow to react. Am I hearing this right? Asking Julia to take care of the little villain. She's doomed. Look, the little villain's glare is practically skinning Julia alive. Oh my God. I looked down and sure enough, Bruce was staring at me, taking in my every reaction. His lips silently forming the words, "You're afraid of me too?" I froze, momentarily speechless. Wait, if everyone says this child is destined to become a high IQ villain in the future, why shouldn't I seek wealth in danger? If I can mold him into a pure genius instead of the original villain, wouldn't my position in the James family be secure? Deal, I said to Tina, late at night, when all was quiet. I lay in bed replaying today's surreal events. My phone suddenly lit up with a message from Mrs. James. Julia, things happened so suddenly today. Your father and I decided to take a break first. Maybe you should also lay low for a while. I replied. Mrs. James had to spell it out clearly. It's a good thing Tina was found, and your parents love both of you, but the child she brought back will ruin the James family and kill you. Your father and I are also deeply troubled. She sent a series of voice messages, urging me to leave as soon as possible. I turned off my phone. I don't know if my ending will be like what the bullet comments said, but I know, the future is never predetermined. If the comments say he'll become a business prodigy, then I'll nurture him into a true genius. If the comments say he'll bankrupt the James family, I'll make sure he becomes the pride of the James family instead. After all, I was once the formidable young lady of the James family who dominated the underworld. Nothing is too big a deal for me. Starting tomorrow, the villain childhood transformation plan begins. The next day, the alarm clock jolted me awake, and I angrily reached to turn it off when Tina's call came in again. I need to handle my university re-enrollment, so I'm leaving Bruce in your care for now. Rubbing my eyes as I sat up, I suddenly heard a dull thud from outside. My heart skipped a beat as I rushed toward the source of the sound in quick strides. Lisa hurried past, clutching her arm, the moment she saw me. She almost called out, "Miss," but seemed to think better of it and chose to ignore me instead, even shooting me a glare. I noticed the scars on her arm, which must have been left by something sharp piercing her skin. Stop right there. I narrowed my eyes. Lisa had worked for the James family for 10 years and was adept at treating people differently based on their status. The moment she found out I was a fake heiress, her attitude changed instantly. Then her injury today must be because, wait, no. Where's Bruce? I looked around. Lisa's pupils suddenly contracted, her gaze evasive. You upstairs. He hasn't woken up yet. Her lie was too obvious. I ignored her and turned to run upstairs, passing the children's room. The door was slightly ajar, but no one was inside. My heart sank. I searched the entire James family villa, but couldn't find him anywhere. Only the storage room in the basement's first underground level remains unchecked. The James family's basement has a storage room with no windows and excellent soundproofing. I once hid there during a game of hide-and-seek as a child, and the darkness and silence still haunt me to this day. With that thought, I hurried toward the storage room. When I pushed open the storage room door, a musty smell hit me, by the flashlight's glow. I saw a small figure curled up in the corner, hugging its knees, motionless. Bruce, I called softly. The child lifted his head, his eyes startlingly bright in the darkness. He wasn't crying, didn't even show a trace of fear, but that very calmness made it all the more heartbreaking. Did Lisa do this? Why did she lock you up? I crouched down to meet his eye level. Bruce's lips curled into a cold smile that didn't match his age. She said I stole her ring. I noticed something shiny in the corner. Picking it up, I saw it was a cheap alloy ring. Then what's this? She deliberately dropped it in my room, Bruce said calmly, but she insisted I stole it. Serves her right to get pricked by a nail. No, one nail isn't enough. I want to nail her to the wall. My fists clenched involuntarily, my emotions a tangled mess. The barrage of comments said this child would grow up to be a cold-blooded villain. But all I saw was a child framed and mistreated, just trying to protect himself in his own way. Because of those comments, others could bully him without restraint, all while using so-called justice as an excuse. Come with me. I reached out my hand to him. Bruce looked at me warily. What for? I'm going to teach you something, I said, looking straight into his eyes. The right way to fight back when someone bullies you. I quickly gathered all the staff in the villa to the living room. Lisa stood at the forefront, rubbing her hands uneasily. Everyone, I raised my voice. I am no longer the young lady of the James family, so you can ignore me as you please. But Bruce is the only grandson of the James family. Anyone who disrespects him can get out immediately. Lisa's body visibly stiffened. The James family has always treated employees well, but we will never tolerate any wrongdoing. I took out my phone and pulled up the evidence of Lisa framing Bruce. Lisa, can you explain why Bruce was locked in the storage room? And why you accused him of stealing your ring? The hall erupted in an uproar. Lisa turned deathly pale. I didn't mean to. But he kept giving me those terrifying looks. So you framed a 5-year-old child and locked him in a dark room. My voice trembled with rage. Shall I call the police myself? Lisa completely broke down, sobbing and begging for mercy. I stared at her coldly. Pack your things and leave the James family immediately. Bruce had been standing quietly at the corner of the staircase, watching everything unfold. I walked over and spoke in a measured tone. Remember, when dealing with this kind of person, you have to expose their true nature in front of everyone, understand? Bruce's eyes shone brilliantly. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, he just awkwardly turned his head away. Don't be shy, I said with a laugh, ruffling his hair. If you really feel bad about it, just call me your godmother. That way, you can enjoy your godmother's protection with a clear conscience. He suddenly looked up and glared at me, his little face turning bright red. Who wants to call you godmother? But what I saw in his eyes wasn't malice or hatred, but anticipation. Call me godmother. I pushed my luck since he didn't seem to mind. Bruce, godmother. I curled my lips into a smirk. Little brat. Bowled over by my charm, aren't you? The plot development seems off. How could the big villain bow his head? Julia really has some skills. She's so good at guiding children. As a preschool teacher graduate, I feel ashamed of my own inadequacy. The barrage comments actually gave me a reminder. Professional matters should be left to professionals. I quickly contacted the best kindergarten in the city and enrolled Bruce there. While Bruce was at school, I stayed home studying child psychology books. I just finished reading a chapter when my phone suddenly rang. It was the kindergarten. Hello, is this Bruce's parent? A stern female voice came through. Yes, it is. Did something happen? My heart immediately leaped to my throat. Please come to the kindergarten right away. Bruce has caused some trouble. Hanging up the phone, I grabbed my coat and rushed out. Along the way, all sorts of terrifying conjectures flashed through my mind. After all, the bullet comments had mentioned that Bruce would become a cold-blooded villain in the future. Could he have done something terrible at the kindergarten today? No, that can't be. From the few days we've spent together, all I've seen is a smart, sensitive, and insecure child. Definitely not a born monster. At the door of the kindergarten principal's office, I heard intense arguing inside. It was him. I saw him crush the little bird to death. A little girl with pigtails accused. He also threw the small stones into the fountain. Another boy chimed in. I pushed the door open and saw Bruce standing alone in the corner, expressionless. The barrage of comments above his head was even denser than usual. It's starting. The villain's first display of violent tendencies, killing small animals at just 5 years old. Truly a born evil seed. Dare to come, fake heiress. Just wait to be dragged down. The kindergarten director and teachers stood to the side, their faces showing clear disgust and wariness. Small groups of children pointed at Bruce, chattering away as they accused him of his crimes. What happened? I walked over to Bruce and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. His body was tense, but he didn't pull away. The kindergarten principal adjusted her glasses. Ms. James, your child killed a small bird during outdoor activities today and also threw stones into the fountain, damaging public property. That's impossible, I said reflexively. Bruce would never do such things. As soon as the words fell, I felt Bruce's body tremble slightly. He raised his head and looked at me in disbelief, a flicker of incredulity flashing in his eyes. Principal, does the kindergarten have surveillance cameras? I suddenly asked. The principal was taken aback for a moment. Yes, we do. I want to see the surveillance footage, I said firmly. If Bruce really did those things, I'll take responsibility. But if it's a misunderstanding, I want to clear his name. Under my insistence, the principal reluctantly took us to the monitoring room. In the footage, Bruce found a frozen little sparrow in the corner. He picked up the bird and breathed warm air onto it. But unfortunately, after struggling twice, the bird still didn't survive. As for the fountain incident, the surveillance clearly showed that the boy who accused Bruce was the one who threw stones into the fountain and then framed Bruce for it. The office was eerily quiet, with several children keeping their heads down in silence, while the principal's face turned alternately pale and flushed. I said coldly, apologize to Bruce. The principal coughed awkwardly. Well, this was indeed a misunderstanding. The children reluctantly muttered, sorry, while the principal and teachers also offered half-hearted apologies. Though their eyes remained full of wariness, I crouched down and asked Bruce, why didn't you explain? Bruce lowered his head, his voice almost inaudible. No one would believe me. My heart ached as if pricked by a needle. Indeed, everyone could see those bullet comments. Who would believe the explanation of a future demon? I believe in you. I cupped his little face in my hands. No matter what happens in the future, Godmother will always believe in you, okay? Bruce's eyes suddenly turned red, and large teardrops rolled down his cheeks. He threw himself into my arms, his shoulders shaking with sobs. The little bird, I just wanted to save it. I held him tightly, feeling his small body tremble in my embrace. I know it all. I gently patted his back. Bruce is the best boy. When Bruce had calmed down a bit, I asked him to wait in the car first, then turned to face everyone in the office and took a deep breath. I know you can all see those words above Bruce's head, I said bluntly, but when interacting with people, you should judge them by their actual behavior, not by holding on to prejudices. The principal looked surprised. You can see those bullet comments too, then why would you still? I firmly countered. If everyone rejects and wrongs him because of those prophecies, aren't we the ones pushing him toward that dark future, at least to me? Bruce is just an ordinary child who needs love and understanding. I hope the kindergarten will treat him the same way. On the way home, as we sat in the back seat, Bruce took my hand on his own initiative. Godmother, he called me softly. Thank you. His voice was as light as a feather. You're the first person besides my mom who believes in me. I hugged him. More people will believe in you in the future, I promise. On a beautiful weekend afternoon, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows into the living room, but of all things, I happened to catch Bruce using my limited edition lipstick to solve math formulas on the window. My lipstick? No, I wailed as I rushed over. Godmother, didn't you say you'd pay any price for my education? He pointed at the window. Look, I've solved this mathematical conjecture. I took a closer look. The window was covered in dense formulas, clearly presenting a concise proof of a famous conjecture. This was a problem that had stumped the academic world for years. The barrage refreshes frantically, with exclamations of, "Holy shit," flooding the screen. This is a 5-year-old, not recommended for such young kids to engage in math research. It makes me look so useless. Nobel Prize incoming. Bruce pouts. The building blocks you gave me yesterday were too childish. My heart is bleeding. Who understands? To stop him from ruining my makeup, I had a sudden inspiration. Bruce, what kind of non-childish toy do you want? Godmother will buy it for you. A quantum computer. His eyes lit up. Then he added, or a few chemistry labs would work too. The bullet comments floated by again. Are you trying to build a nuclear bomb in secret? That's a dangerous thing to say. Enough. I shouldn't have asked in the first place. That afternoon, I took him to the Science Museum and let him have his fill of fun in the simulation lab. On the way home, as we passed by the mall's large screen, an advertisement for the Lincoln Family Group was playing. Bruce suddenly stopped, staring intently at the screen. A handsome man in a well-tailored suit was eloquently discussing the Lincoln family's new product, Godmother. He tugged at my sleeve, his voice suddenly turning icy calm. That man looks a lot like the strange uncle from outside the kindergarten yesterday. My heart tightened. The barrage of comments confirmed my suspicion. Bruce's biological father David sent someone to scout the location. I remember now. This is how he found Bruce. Kidnapping countdown. Bruce suddenly said, "Godmother, I want ice cream." Before I could react, he pulled me into a dessert shop. Through the shop window, I saw a low-key Mercedes parked across the street. Bruce, you noticed it long ago. That car has been following us for 6 blocks, he whispered, licking his ice cream while keeping an eye on the window with his peripheral vision. The license plate has 3 8s, definitely from the Lincoln Family Group. I was stunned. You can tell just from that. It was in last week's financial news, he said casually, and the Lincoln family is quite superstitious about metaphysics. They even insist on auspicious license plate numbers. The barrage of comments erupted in amazement. This observational skill is next level. How is this even possible? Bruce should consider becoming a detective. That night, I told Tina about the afternoon's events over the phone, her voice trembling. David, how did he know our whereabouts? What was he doing all this time? Why show up now to take the child? I asked in confusion. The Lincoln family has a hereditary heart condition. Men don't live past 30, and David only has a year left. She smiled bitterly. Ironically, Bruce is the exception. I fell silent. I'm exposed while the enemy lurks in the shadows. This is really tricky. For the next while, I paid extra attention to any strangers around Bruce, but I never imagined that David would be bold enough to kidnap someone right under my nose. When I went to pick up Bruce from school, my car broke down halfway. I tried to hail a ride to get my child, but no one accepted the order on the ride-hailing app. The black Mercedes slowly came to a stop at the kindergarten entrance. David removed his sunglasses, his gaze settling on the small figure. Bruce. He rolled down the window, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. Get in, let's talk. Bruce's footsteps halted abruptly, and the barrage of comments above his head suddenly went wild. Holy shit, it's his biological dad. This man is terrifying. Gentle on the surface but ruthless at heart. Bruce, run, I don't know you. Bruce took half a step back. David chuckled softly and suddenly flashed his phone screen. Here's Tina at the school cafe, with the camera deliberately focusing on the sleeping pill bottle peeking out from her bag. Recognize it now. His voice remained gentle. Your mother hasn't been sleeping well lately. 10 minutes later, the black Mercedes parked in a secluded corner of the park. They say you'll become a demon. David suddenly leaned in, his eyes gleaming with a sickly light. But Dad knows. You're just too smart, so smart it frightens ordinary people. Only Daddy is your closest person, understand? He reached out to touch the child's hair, but Bruce tilted his head to avoid it. Last time, the James family's nanny locked you in the basement. David wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled as he listed the incidents. Last week, those kids at the kindergarten. Are you spying on me? Bruce's voice was as cold as ice. This is called concern. David pulled out a stack of documents, all detailing my schedule, with red circles marking the law firm I was supposed to visit tomorrow. Bruce suddenly looked up, anger flashing in his eyes. David happily observed the child's changing expression. Come back to the Lincoln family with me, and I promise they'll be safe. Otherwise, I can't guarantee your mother or her. His finger lightly traced over my smiling face in the photo. The air in the car instantly froze. The barrage of comments exploded. How despicable. Using his godmother to threaten Bruce. In the original story, David didn't succeed through such means, did he? How he succeeded doesn't matter anymore. What's important is that Bruce is in danger now. After a long silence, Bruce calmly looked at him and nodded. I searched the entire city like a madman, from kindergartens to parks, from shopping malls to alleyways. Surveillance footage showed Bruce getting into a black Mercedes, but the license plate was fake, and the trail went cold. It's the fourth day, and I've barely slept a wink. By the time Tina rushed back from school, I had already combed through almost all the city's traffic surveillance footage. Julia, take a rest. No one could have anticipated this happening. She handed me a cup of hot tea, her hands trembling. I shook my head, spilling tea onto the map on the table. Bruce is terrified of the dark. How scared must he be right now? Just then, the James family's private detective sent a photo. Bruce lying on a white hospital bed, and 4 tube connected to his wrist. In the corner of the photo was a blurry medical device displaying Lincoln Family Biotech, the Lincoln Family Laboratory. I stood up abruptly, dizzy and nearly falling. It's in the Southern Industrial District, in the private laboratory of the Lincoln family. Bruce lay weakly on the hospital bed. His arms were covered in needle marks, and his face was so pale it was almost translucent. Draw another 10 pumps of blood today, David said to the doctor in the white coat, his expression grim. I don't have much time left. The doctor hesitated. Mr. Lincoln, the child is too young. Continuous blood draws have already caused anemia. Draw. David coughed violently. He's my son. He should save me. Why is he the only one in the Lincoln family who didn't inherit the heart disease? Why? By the time the needle pierced the tiny vein, Bruce could no longer feel the pain. He stared at the ceiling as hallucinations began to appear. His godmother in a white dress, walking toward him like a beam of light. Godmother, he murmured, tears slipping into his hair. David waved his hand impatiently. Give him a sedative. He's hallucinating again. After drawing a pump of blood, just as the doctor was about to continue, Tina and I burst into the lab with backup, kicking open the innermost door. The sight before me froze the blood in my veins. Bruce lay on the operating table like a broken ragdoll, his arms connected to several tubes. You're insane, Tina screamed, rushing toward Bruce. I grabbed the fire extinguisher by the door and smashed it into the medical equipment. David tried to stop me but fell from his wheelchair. He roared, only he isn't sick, only he can save me. I must uncover the secret in his blood. I picked up the pale-faced Bruce, his body cold. Yet he smiled when he saw me. Godmother, I knew you'd come. David struggled to crawl toward us. Give him back to me. Tina stood in front of us, her voice as cold as ice. You should have died long ago. To survive, you drained your own son's blood for experiments. You're worse than an animal. David, furious and humiliated, snapped. Do you think this is over? The James family group has already. His words were cut off by a violent cough. and he spat a mouthful of blood onto the floor. The doctors rushed to his side in panic. And we seized the chance to take Bruce and leave the lab. This time, I truly experienced the heartache of nearly losing a loved one. Fortunately, after being unconscious for 2 days and 1 night, Bruce woke up. Meanwhile, David flew abroad decisively for treatment to cling to life, and the police didn't catch him when they arrived. Upon hearing about Bruce's accident, Mr. and Mrs. James flew back from the Maldives that very day. The long-dormant barrage comments suddenly appeared, scrolling uniformly across the screen. Why are Grandpa and Grandma back so soon? Weren't they the ones who disliked the little villain the most? Exactly, especially Mr. James. He detested Bruce the most. In the original story, Bruce bankrupted the James family and even caused Mr. James to suffer a stroke out of anger. Upon seeing the barrage comments, Mr. James shuddered violently. Bruce forced a smile. Hello, Grandpa. I'm sorry for making you worry, Mr. James, who had just been frowning at the barrage of comments on the screen, was caught off guard by this sudden greeting and nodded stiffly in response. Bruce picked up a document from the bedside table. Being hospitalized is so boring. I put together a financial analysis and investment proposal for the James family group over the past 5 years. What, Mr. James's glasses slid down to the tip of his nose as he fumbled to take the document. His expression shifted from shock to seriousness, and finally to delight as he flipped through the pages. These documents, his voice trembled, are even more professional than what the finance department produced. Bruce tilted his head. Actually, it's quite simple. All the data is in the annual report. The hard part is analyzing it carefully and making targeted improvements to address the shortcomings. Notice how Mr. James's expression has softened. Who could resist such a brilliant and well-behaved grandson? Grandfather's defenses are crumbling. The plot direction is really changing now. I love seeing the expressions on Grandpa and Grandma's faces when they're being won over. Ha ha ha. Mrs. James tentatively asked, Sweetie, how do you know all this? From watching financial channels and learning from investment books. Bruce blinked. It's way more interesting than cartoons. Mr. and Mrs. James' attitudes visibly softened. I nudged Tina and gave her a meaningful look. See, our parents still dote on their grandson. That night, back at the James family villa, Mr. and Mrs. James discussed late into the night in the study. Mrs. James brought a cup of hot tea. Old man, don't be too hard on the child. Maybe those baseless prophecies are false. Mr. James sighed and said, I hope so too. That child is indeed a rare genius. The next day, the financial news channel was broadcasting reports about the Lincoln family group's crisis. Bruce suddenly looked at me. Godmother, you still have 700,000 in cash in your account, right? How do you know that? I nearly choked on my own saliva. I saw the notification on your phone last time, he said casually, as if discussing what to have for lunch. Short the Lincoln family stock now and close the position in 3 days. You'll make an 80% profit. Tina immediately frowned. Bruce, don't teach people to speculate. It's not speculation. The Lincoln family has several shady business operations, and the police are cracking down hard. They'll probably be exposed next week. He paused, then continued. I found it by analyzing their monthly financial reports. The loopholes are obvious. Holy crap, a 5-year-old business prodigy. This move is too hardcore. I also want a son who can carry me to victory. A few days later, the Lincoln family group indeed erupted in a financial scandal, and their stock price plummeted. Following Bruce's advice, my account actually grew by 800,000, though Mr. and Mrs. James didn't say anything outright. They took note of everything and privately praised Bruce's brilliance. I was also excited and offered to buy him a gift, but he shook his head. Godmother, donate the money to the orphanage instead. Why the sudden urge to donate? I asked in surprise. Because the kids there don't have family to be with. He lowered his head, playing with his fingers, his voice suddenly growing quieter. When I was taken away by the bad dad and couldn't see mom or godmother, I felt just as pitiful as them. Is this supposed to be a villain? This is clearly a kind-hearted little sweetheart, a little angel, the youngest philanthropist in the making. Indeed, children are blank canvases. It all depends on how parents guide them. Time flew by in the blink of an eye, and soon it was Bruce's first day of elementary school. In the morning, I gently pushed open the door to find Bruce already dressed in his school uniform, standing on tiptoe as he fiddled with an intricate model on the table. Godmother, look. He proudly held up the little gadget. We can use this device to automatically water the garden from now on. I crouched down to straighten his crooked bow tie. It's your first day of school today. Are you nervous? Bruce pouted. Those lessons are too boring. I glanced at the 5th grade textbook yesterday, and it was barely worth reading. I struggled to suppress a laugh. This child always managed to say the most arrogant things in the most matter-of-fact tone. Let's go, little genius. I picked up his backpack. Today's just an entrance test. No need to take it too seriously. We walked through the gates of the private school. Ms. James, this way please. Director Lee from the admissions office. Wearing gold-rimmed glasses, led us solemnly into a quiet classroom. We'll start with the entrance test first. True to its reputation as a prestigious school, the test questions were indeed much harder than those at regular schools, but Bruce solved them at an astonishing speed. This question has a problem. He suddenly pointed at the final word problem on the math test. Director Lee's glasses slid down to the tip of his nose. This was intentionally set as a trick question. The given conditions in the problem are indeed deliberately incorrect. Bruce nodded, quickly revised the problem's conditions, and then swiftly wrote down the answer. This makes more sense. Half an hour later, Director Lee held the perfect score test paper, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Ms. James, your child might need a special education plan. At that moment, the classroom door was pushed open, and an elderly man with silver hair walked in. Let me take a look at this little student, he said kindly, crouching down to meet Bruce at eye level. Young man, do you like mathematics? It's all right. Bruce tilted his head, but I prefer physics and chemistry. The old man's eyes lit up. I'm the school principal. Surnamed Chen. Child, would you like to take a special test? For the next 2 hours, Bruce's performance astonished all the teachers present. Not only did he solve middle school level math problems, but he also pointed out an imprecise statement on the physics test paper. The elderly man excitedly slammed the table and stood up. We plan to create a special training program for him. We can't waste such a rare genius. My anxious heart finally settled. The teachers at this school had also seen the barrage comments, but clearly, they valued Bruce's talent more and were willing to nurture him properly. The sun was already setting as I left the school. Bruce pressed his face against the car window, watching the older students running across the campus. Godmother, do you think those big kids would want to play with me? He suddenly asked in a small voice, an unusual hint of nervousness in his tone. My heart softened instantly. No matter how smart he is, he's still just a child longing for companionship. Of course I will. I ruffled his curly hair. But promise me you won't start by taking apart other people's toys. Okay, I'll try. Bruce blinked his eyes and grinned slyly. Over the next few weeks, Bruce adapted well to school life, but the situation with the James family wasn't going as smoothly. The atmosphere at the James family group's quarterly board meeting was as tense as frozen ice. As the former heiress, I shouldn't have been present, but Mr. James insisted that I bring Bruce along. Last quarter's production capacity dropped significantly again, the production director reported, wiping sweat from his brow. The old equipment simply can't keep up with demand. Replacing the equipment would require at least $300 million in funding. The CFO immediately objected. With our current tight cash flow, the board would never approve it. Bruce quietly tugged at my sleeve. Godmother, their production process has issues. I encouraged him to speak up boldly. Before I could finish speaking, the little guy had already jumped off his chair, clattered over to the projector, and said, these steps here, and here can be optimized. The meeting room fell silent instantly. All 12 board members stared at this tiny figure who wasn't even as tall as the conference table. Little one, don't cause trouble, the production director said awkwardly, trying to pick him up. Wait, Mr. James suddenly raised his hand. Bruce, go on. Bruce climbed onto the chair and pointed at the projection screen, spouting a stream of ideas. The entire meeting room fell silent. The production director's mouth hung open wide enough to fit an egg. These improvements would require almost no additional cost, he muttered. The directors whispered among themselves, with one sneering, armchair strategist, does our decades of experience count for less than that of a mere babe? After a moment of contemplation, Mr. James suddenly made a decision. Let's trial Bruce's proposal in one workshop first. His expression was grave, and everyone understood that Mr. James was staking the entire James family on this gamble. Yet he cast aside his prejudice and chose to trust his grandson. A week later, I brought Bruce to the factory under the James family group. the production director rushed over, his face flushed with excitement. Incredible, truly incredible. The pilot workshop's productivity has increased by 28%. Bruce was lifted high by the workers, his cheeks rosy with joy. He waved excitedly at me. Godmother, they really listened to me. I smiled and nodded. Yes, our Bruce is just that amazing. Life was gradually getting back on track, just as everyone had forgotten about David, when he reappeared to stir up trouble again, in the middle of the night. I felt inexplicably uneasy and found myself walking to Bruce's door, where I heard faint keyboard tapping sounds from inside the room. Pushing the door open, I saw that Bruce had actually hacked into the Lincoln family's private internal email. On the screen was David's unmistakable instruction, Operation Tomorrow. Bring back the child at all costs. I gasped in shock. That bastard David actually dared to come back to the country. We need to hurry and tell the others so we can prepare, I said. Bruce turned his head, his gaze terrifyingly calm. No. Mom and Grandma would worry. Don't worry, Godmother, I can handle this myself this time. At 5:03 in the morning, when the James family villa's security system sounded its first alarm, Bruce was already seated in front of the surveillance screens. As I pushed the door open, I saw his small back tense like a bow. On the screen, 3 black cars were slowly surrounding the villa, the barrage lit up with excitement. Classic kidnapping plot activated. So intense. Wait. David's men have brought tranquilizer guns. I froze. They have that many people and even tranquilizer guns. Are they truly disregarding the law, planning to break in and kidnap a child? Just as I reached out to pull Bruce to safety, I saw him switch to another screen, the live feed from the James family's core laboratory. In the scene, someone is logging into the James family's genetic database with the highest authority. In this era, every major family has its own private genetic database. A series of footsteps sound as Tina rushes in, panicked, with sleep marks still visible on her face. She had been awakened by a nightmare in the middle of the night and hurried to check on the child, just in time to overhear our conversation. Mom, don't worry. Bruce smiled confidently, revealing 2 sharp canine teeth. Bad Daddy wanted to steal me and also tried to steal the James family's genetic data. But I left a gift hidden in their database. He pressed the enter key. The James family's genetic database program flickered simultaneously, displaying an animation of a grinning skull with a line of small text below. Found you, Bad Daddy. By the time you see this, the police are already on their way. At that moment, the barrage of comments eerily froze. What the hell? Did David just get completely wrecked? How will the plot develop if Bruce isn't taken away? Forget about the plot. Doesn't anyone think Bruce is amazing? This kid is frighteningly intelligent. Thank heavens, David and his gang were finally caught by the police and died in prison. David's mother, as the head of the Lincoln family group, made a phone call. On the phone, David's mother spoke in a stiff tone. Before David passed away, he insisted that Bruce must attend the funeral. Not a chance. Tina's face darkened as she struggled to hold back the urge to swear. When he was alive, he wanted to take Bruce away. And now even in death, Mom, Bruce gently tugged at her sleeve. I'll go. On the day of the funeral, the Lincoln family cemetery was packed with black-clad guests wearing sunglasses, the air thick with feigned sorrow. Don't be afraid, we have over a dozen bodyguards protecting us this time, I whispered to Bruce. I'm not scared. He lifted his face. I'm just wondering, since Bad Daddy is already dead, why do I still have to come? David's coffin was placed in the center of the mourning hall. In the photo, he remained as handsome as ever, though his heart was far uglier than his face. During the eulogy, the Lincoln family lawyer suddenly announced, according to Mr. Lynn's will, young Master Bruce will inherit 15% of the Lincoln family group's shares, on the condition that he changes his surname back to Lynn and accepts the guardianship of the Lincoln family. Tina flew into a rage on the spot. In your dreams, she scooped up Bruce and turned to leave. I snorted coldly. Only 15%. Are you trying to beggar me? Just then, a sudden beep-beep electronic sound came from the coffin. All eyes turned toward the source of the noise in horror. 5, 4, 3, the countdown was clearly audible. Get down. The security guard dramatically lunged toward the coffin, as if acting in a spy movie. Bang. There was no explosion, only a flurry of colorful confetti and the cheerful melody of a birthday song. The urn automatically popped open, and a clown doll sprang out, mechanically repeating, surprise. The scene descended into chaos. Members of the Lincoln family cursed the prank's mastermind, while someone slipped on scattered paper scraps, making the whole situation utterly humiliating. I glanced down at Bruce in Tina's arms. He was secretly operating a mini-program on his smartwatch, a mischievous smile playing at the corners of his lips. You really never run out of tricks, do you? I widened my eyes. It's just a little game, don't be so tense, he leaned in and whispered in my ear. On the ride back, Tina was still trembling with anger over David's shamelessness. Bruce silently patted her back and comforted her, saying, "Mom, we should be celebrating. He can never hurt us again." Tina's tears finally overflowed as she buried her face in Bruce's hair, weeping silently. Watching this scene, my heart ached with both bitterness and warmth. During her college years, Tina was emotionally deceived by David, forced to drop out and raise Bruce alone. Struggling to make ends meet while enduring countless scornful glances from others. Fortunately, after enduring hardships, sweetness finally arrived. Come to think of it, the barrage comments haven't appeared for a long time. I had almost forgotten about them. Speak of the devil, a sudden barrage comment popped up. Woo-woo, Bruce's story of breaking free from his predetermined fate is so touching. It even made a shady merchant like me cry. From now on, I'll only sell zombie meat to college students. Time flies like a white steed's shadow. In the blink of an eye, the little kid who used to follow me around has grown into a tall and handsome young man. Godmother, look at this. 15-year-old Bruce burst into my office, waving a document in his hand. He had just graduated from college this year and was already half a head taller than me, but his excited expression remained exactly the same as when he was a child. Slow down, I said with a smile, taking off my glasses. What's the good news? My product patent got approved. His eyes sparkled. The board has agreed to put it into production on the James family assembly line. I carefully flipped through the patent documents, feeling an overwhelming surge of emotions in my heart. That gloomy, silent child from back then has truly grown into a scientist who changed the world. The best part is, he leaned in closer to me, lowering his voice. The Lincoln family group tried to plagiarize this technology last week, and their lab ended up exploding. Bruce, I put on a stern face. Don't tell me you had something to do with it. By heaven and earth. He raised his hands in surrender. They used the wrong materials themselves. Although I might have, slightly, foreseen this outcome and didn't warn them. I shook my head helplessly, but couldn't help the corners of my mouth lifting. The kindness and sense of justice in this child's bones never changed. It's just the way of expression, becoming more and more creative. On the day of Tina's and my 35th birthday, what Bruce gave his dear mother was a beachfront villa. The gift for me was a thick notebook. I looked toward the door, where a young girl in a plaid shirt and jeans stood, holding the hand of a boy around 5 years old. Not this. Flipping through, every page was filled with our memories, cooking together and ending up covering the kitchen in soot, the fun times at school sports day, me crying even harder than Tina when he won his first award. The last page was blank, with a small envelope attached. I opened it to find a letter of appointment. We sincerely invite Ms. Julia to serve as the honorary president of the James Family Gifted Children Foundation. Signed, your forever loving godson, Bruce. What does this foundation do? I barely held back my tears as I asked. It helps weird kids like me, he said with a playful wink. I want them to know that being different isn't a flaw, it's a gift. Children who are different also have the right to bloom into unique flowers. They should not be feared or rejected by the world. The barrage of comments reached an unprecedented density at this moment. I'm crying like a fool. So touching. Woo-woo. My eyelids are swollen from crying. I won't be able to go to work tomorrow. Outside the window, the spring sunlight bathed the garden, and a few sparrows chirped noisily on the newly sprouted branches. This time, it's truly our story. No villains, no tragedies. Just a gifted boy surrounded by love. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.